everyone, this is Jane with Barlow Herbal, and happy Sunday, October 27th of 2024. I have just wrapped up a super busy week and just some great thoughts and stuff that I wrote down in my journal this week. But hello to all the new subscribers. I did an impromptu live with Jean Nolan over on the Inspired channel this week. We're lucky enough to spend some time together, and actually I was in Kansas City this past weekend as well, and got to see a lot of people in person, and just had a really great time, which is something I don't do very often. I used to go out all the time, and a new naturopathic doctor or practitioner would come aboard, and I would sometimes go in person and train their team. And I got to do that this past weekend with Dr. Von Lawrence, and we filmed a couple of podcasts. It was super busy. And then I had an impromptu trip to visit my friends from the Inspire channel, and we jumped on a live, and it was a lot of fun. So if you found me there and you just came over here and subscribed, thank you so much. It's always fun to connect with like-minded souls and figure this whole crazy world out as we're going through it. Now, this past week, what actually kind of fell in for a theme for me is what's your story? Like, I think we get so identified by what our story is. And then what I wrote is this: do you let it change? Do you let it change? So we have these stories that we create about who we are, how we see the world, and many times we can stay rigid. Even we can get upset when someone challenges our story, challenges our belief system. But I think the biggest theme here is to allow ourselves to really be open-minded and challenge the stories and the belief systems that we might hold dear. And I'm not saying you have to release them, but maybe give them a look, give them a challenge, right? So do you hold on to the old? Do we hold on to old things because that's just simply comfortable? And I wrote old ways and old beliefs. You know, this is something that's super easy to do because we get so comfortable and we don't want to get uncomfortable. And I think that what happens is we don't realize how adaptable we are to new information. I mean, look what happened in 2020 when all the bad stuff happened, and we were told to do things we didn't want to do. It's amazing how fast people adapted, and they changed their story to do things that they knew weren't right for them. So we need to continually challenge our stories and our belief systems, and we are adaptable, but we need to recognize that we also get adaptable to stories that don't serve us because we don't want to rock the boat. We don't want to. We don't want to be the person who stands out, who's doing things that other people aren't doing. And I do believe that if you're tuning into this and into me, you're probably one of those people that has no problem rocking the boat and has no problem saying, I'm not going to do that, I'm not going to do this, even though everybody else is doing it. I'm pretty sure that we're a little like-minded tribe here. So then I wrote this: do you constantly challenge yourself? I think that that's something really important to do on a regular basis. Challenge the things that you hear, challenge the things that you believe constantly. And are you willing to release the material? Now, I wrote that because I think we get really attached to things, and I'm talking about material things. We get attached to our house, we get attached to our cars, we get attached to old things from our grandmothers. And I'm not saying you have to release all these things, but I think we need to recognize that there is an attachment to these things sometimes that can be not healthy, and it can keep us stuck in situations, and it can keep us stuck in relationships. I hiked yesterday with a really dear friend who I haven't hiked with her for a long time, and we had this great conversation, and she was talking about how when she grew up, her mother was a little bit of a hoarder, and I think that's that can be more common than we know. Especially if we might be maybe a neat hoarder, someone who keeps the things that they just can't throw away or get rid of or donate or whatever. We keep them neat. We keep them out of the way and tucked away. We might even have storage units, garages, basements full of stuff that doesn't serve us, or it might be even more obvious, where we maybe can't move around in our house because we just have so much material stuff. And I bring this up because I think this is actually part of releasing a story, releasing who we identify with, who we think we are. And I think it's always good to question what identifies us. Do you identify yourself because of a certain political party? Do you identify with a family culture or family religion or a family name? I mean, it's interesting when you think outside of those constructs, because I think those stories are things that human beings hold dear. We have these long family histories, and those aren't a bad thing. But I think that when we get attached to them that act as identifiers, we let the story control us. And I think it's really important that some of these things kind of get looked at so that we can actually change it. And then I wrote, are you willing to look past what you think might be reality? This is something we've kind of been talking about the last month. Do we look past our five senses? Do we look at the uncomfortable, not just when we're forced to? And I think that there's going to come a day in the very near future where we're going to be forced to look at things that are uncomfortable. And if we can start doing this on an even higher level, for those of us who've been seekers for a long time, if we can do this continually as we walk through this, what's happening, the uncertainty, what's to come that might be really intense, then it won't be quite so intense. It won't be quite so uncomfortable. It's exactly like when you go to the gym and you start lifting weights, and you're really sore at first, and maybe you're not very strong, and it's really uncomfortable. It's not fun at all. And then the discomfort that you put yourself through starts to get easier. It starts to feel better. You start to get stronger. You build stronger physical muscles when you go to the gym and you do what's uncomfortable. So we need to apply this same concept to getting uncomfortable, challenging our stories and belief systems, so that when other things come at us, not just individually, but collectively, we can handle them a lot differently. And they're not so challenging because we're stronger. We realize who we really are, not just the stories we've been told and we tell ourselves. We realize who we really are. And that's the cool thing, right? Now, after I wrote all that stuff, then I went into my own little journaling pity party, if you will. Because here's what I wrote. Sometimes it's too much. Sometimes I just feel like, okay, uncle already. I feel like I need a break. I feel that all the time. I have these moments where I'm feeling good, I'm feeling strong, and I'm feeling like I got this, and the world is this, and I'm willing to look at new things, and I'm willing to have my worldview rocked, and then take a look at it and see how it sits with me, and then come to my own conclusions about it. And then sometimes the whole thing just makes me tired, and I just am like, okay, enough already. So I wrote, sometimes it's too much. I feel that all the time. I just want what we're made for. Our pure spark of consciousness. We're made for love, peace, beauty, kindness, and joy. I just want that. I just want that. Just can we have a break? Sometimes I feel the weight of the suffering, of the fear, of the burden of ill health, of the hopeless feeling, and I start to feel sorry for myself. So as I wrote all these first questions about changing our stories and changing our belief systems, I kind of sat there with my journal, and I was just kind of, thinking about all these things, and then I was just like, oh, sometimes it just gets to be too much. And then as soon as I wrote that out, and it always feels good to write things out. If you've become a journaler, or you're already a journaler, you've been journaling your feelings out and your thoughts, then you know how empowering this is. Because then after I wrote that out, I wrote this. Thankfully, it doesn't last long. When I start to feel this thing, and I do feel, one of the things that I wrote is, I feel the burden of ill health. And this is of humanity, of the people I come in contact with, the people that reach out to me. There is this burden that's happening for a lot of humans because they haven't been willing to change their story, their belief system, of the way that they see the world and the way that it works, because they don't think they have a choice. And they're scared if they make another choice. Until they empower themselves, there is going to be a huge burden, and it can be a burden of ill health that's not pleasant. And there's a lot of pain and suffering in that doesn't have to happen. And a lot of times because I talk to people and I hear stories, I feel that. And I think we're in such a fascinating time because, my hands are tied with what I can say, what I can and can't say, what I can teach. It's I always say it's such an interesting time to be alive because, we've had a new web. This is probably a good time to say, we've got a new website that's almost done. We were supposed to go live with it on Friday, but we've got a couple of small things that we needed to work out. So there's a very good chance we're going to go live with our new website on Tuesday. And we've had some other audits from a government agency this past week and a half. And what we have to do is we have to remove some things from our website. So I was talking to my son and I said, imagine if you had a company that made tennis balls and you knew the kind of material that it was made of. You knew how well it was made. You knew what it would do for a tennis player who was at the top of their game or a brand new person who was just learning tennis for the first time. You knew how amazing your tennis balls were, but you were not allowed to say anything that let people know how amazing your tennis balls were. And we just kind of had this conversation about, this is how I feel sometimes when I am in a position to help people. I feel like my hands are tied, and it's such an interesting place to be in. And my deepest hope for us as human beings is that we don't have to continue to suffer with ill health, and not because someone else is trying to get rich off of it, because we have a true caring for each other as humans. So I do feel that. I feel that on a pretty deep basis, and then I pull myself out of there quite quickly, and I look at the bigger picture. I look at my piece of what I bring, and then I also realize we're here for such a temporary time, and I've made a decision with new information that I've kind of connected with, that this has really landed in my knowing of knowings, that I'm not going to come back. I'm not going to come back and reincarnate into this. It's not something I want to do. And I've actually thought this for a long time. I just didn't really realize, what does that look like when I cross over to the other side? And I've kind of had some things that start to click in to make sense. And I'll put a link to the live video that I did with Jean Nolan this past week. If you're interested in watching it, we kind of had a little bit of a conversation that included that piece. So after I realized, okay, I don't stay in this very long, that's awesome. Then I said, I think of everything I've learned in the last few years, especially this past year. I think about all the things that I've learned. Everything in my reality has been rocked and challenged. Everything. And it's, parts of my business and some of my relationships have even been challenged. I think this has happened for a lot of people. I talk to people and I've communicated with people that I don't know in person, but I feel like I know them from the communications we've had via email, sometimes phone call. And, there have been relationships, marriages even, that haven't survived some of these really tough years because people have realized this doesn't serve me, or this one, it's just been so fascinating. And for me, I've actually had a lot of similar things have happened to me, business-wise, relationships, some of my relationships, and it's just been fascinating. So what I wrote is parts of my business and parts of relationships, some of my relationships have really been challenged and rocked. And you always hear, oh, there's lessons, there's growth, there's wisdom. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. You always hear all those things. And at the core, I wrote this, at the core of my spirit, I know it's not supposed to be our story. The suffering, the lessons, the growth, at the core of who I am, I know I don't believe that's what we're supposed to be here for. I think in these human bodies, I believe we're designed to come and experience. And like I said earlier, I just want what we're made for. We're made for love, peace, beauty, kindness, and joy. We don't want to fight with each other. We don't want to go to war with our brother who lives in another country. We don't want our neighbor to go hungry. We all want the same things. And at the core of who I am, feels like such a story to tell yourself. Oh, there are lessons. Oh, I'm gaining wisdom. Oh, the suffering happens for a reason. That just does not make sense to me. And this is just part of me questioning everything about the story. And I don't know if any of this resonates with you, or you think I'm cuckoo. Maybe this is, something you kind of go, yeah, we're here for lessons. We're here for deeper growth. And, I'm not in that space right at the moment. I've been in that space thinking, oh, I've been burning off karma. Oh, I'm learning deep lessons who are making me grow as a human spirit and a human being. And I think we already have all that. We already have it. We have all of that inside of us. Why do you think we get hurt so deeply when we see others suffer? And I think this is the majority. I do think there are some human beings that maybe aren't completely human that don't feel that way, and they don't have that. So at the core of my spirit, I know it's not supposed to be our story, the suffering, the lessons, etc. So what if we change our story? What if we truly released everything that doesn't serve the story? I think that's probably a pretty perfect place to leave it. What if we just release all the stuff that doesn't serve our story? Not just, the spiritual stuff, the relationship stuff, all the stuff, but the material stuff too. We become so attached to these stories because they give us comfort. And I get it. I get it because I'm experiencing and have been experiencing the same things for my entire life. But I'm ready to release those stories that make me suffer. We suffer because we suffer in our mind. We overthink. The conversation I had with my friend yesterday on the hike was lovely, and we talked about, one of the things we just briefly talked about were politics, and the conversation was on November 6th, the sun's going to rise. We're all going to get in our cars, or we're going to open our laptops. We're going to go to work. We're going to take care of our families. We're going to think about the meal for the day. I think that what we need to do is be willing to wrap our head around a bigger picture and change the story of the suffering I don't believe has to happen. I think we get to choose. We get to choose that. Yeah, I'd love to hear what you think about that. It's a crazy cool time to be alive, with an opened, big, wide open mind. Sit with some of these thoughts, and I'd love to hear what you think. To me, this is these are the kind of thoughts I want to have, and next week they might be something completely different. I'm open to the story being changed. I'm open for a surprise ending. I'm open for a plot twist. I'm open. I'm open for all of that. And to me, this is where we can actually bring this human experience back to fun, because I want to have more joy, regardless of what's going on in the world, and regardless of indeed the suffering that's happening. And I'm not saying I don't want to recognize it. I don't want to try to improve it. I don't want to try to help. Those are all givens. But I want to bring more joy and laughter and just happiness back into this human experience. Because when this life is over, for me, I just want to go back to pure source. I don't want to recycle back into this earth unless we are in prime reality, unless we can break down this simulation, break down the construct. Then I would love to do that while I'm still here in this lifetime, and then I can just finish out this life and just play. And I need to remember to do that while I'm here. So thanks for tuning in today, guys. I hope you have a beautiful last Sunday in October. Then we got 2 more months, and I just want to remind you, everything's going to be okay, regardless of what happens in the U.S. election here. Remember just who you are, and be willing to be brave enough to look outside the story that you've let define you. So I love you guys all tons. Again, welcome to all the people who have found my little channel for the first time. I'm glad you're here, and we will see you guys next time.